Now we're going to jump into the conversation. And so just so you know, we've broken the conversation up into a couple of parts. And we broke it into the 4 parts of a cocktail. So the 4 parts of a cocktail, anybody know it off the top of your head? The first one's easy, alcohol. The second one's bitters, sours, and sweets, all right? So those are the 4 things you can find in a cocktail. You might not find all 4. You might find 3 of those 4 things. And so we're going to talk through the origin story for Marcus, the complex moments. Yeah, just put it here for me, which are kind of the bitters pieces, and complex moments in growth. Then finally, overcoming failures and struggles and handling success. And so those are the things that we're going to discuss throughout here. You guys can ask questions throughout these different parts of the discussion, all right? Just shoot them here on my app. I'll ask the question, or raise your hand, and I'll make sure you get called on, okay? All right, so let's go with it. You just want to stand?
Whatever.
All right, cool. We can get the half stand, half sit kind of move going. So the first question, really, Marcus, was what's the origin story? Talk to us about what you've done, how you've gotten to this point, and where you're at now.
Great. So first of all, thanks everybody for coming out. I'm assuming you primarily came because they're feeding you and they're giving you good liquor, and the liquor will help this to be more entertaining. Quick origin story. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. I'm 43 years old, so I was born in 1975. Basically grew up a fan of all loser sports teams in New York. Just completely devastated by the Knicks losing to the Bulls. The only bright spot I've ever had was the Mets winning in 1986, the totally drugged out team. They was all on cocaine.
Dwight.
But I love that team.
Yeah, it's a great team.
But growing up in Brooklyn was incredible. Very, very multicultural. Just an amazing place of doers and believers. But my family was originally from the South, so my mom's side of the family was from Virginia, my dad's side of the family was from North Carolina. I spent all my summers down on a farm in a little town outside of Richmond, Virginia called Goochland. And so I kind of fell in love with the South through that, and decided I wanted to go to school in the South, so I went to UVA for architecture, Wahoo. Lasted there for about 3 years, realized I didn't want to do architecture, and really started to understand a lot more about who I was through that failure, through that sort of misalignment and misfit, that I was creative and that I didn't like anyone to tell me what to do. And so started my entrepreneurial journey really then, but just so many failures and misstarts that's not even worth getting much into. I ended up in Atlanta from about 98 to the year 2000, started a family, and then moved to Nashville Labor Day of 2000. So that's how I got to town.
Gotcha. All right, and so you roll into Nashville Labor Day 2000. I mean, it's a good time to come to the city
Absolutely.
of Nashville. It's warm.
Yep.
The parties are going. It's a good time.
Yep.
What was that feeling like?
I mean, for me, I was 24. I had 1 kid, 1 on the way. So, I was excited. I was nervous. I was foolish. Yeah. I was ready to work really hard. Just the very first day we drove into town, I was working at a Rio Bravo Cantina, which the restaurant's not around anymore. It's kind of like Chewy's.
Yeah.
And so I was working in one in Atlanta. There was one right on West End. Now it's the Stony River. Yeah. So I walked right in. They were busy. I was in the system, so they put me on the floor. So I was employed day one, and just went to work from day one, waiting tables. And that was how I got to kind of understand the city a little bit. Build some relationships and give myself enough time to kind of figure out what I wanted to do.
Gotcha. And so that next step from there was a move to, was it straight to Emma? So you
no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No. So I was waiting tables at 2 different places, 6.5 days a week, and one of the places was a brunch spot out in Belmead called Le Peep. And I didn't know like what neighborhoods I was in. I was just like, okay, they have a restaurant, I can make money, so I'm there.
Pretty good tips.
I didn't realize like I was in like the richest neighborhood in Nashville. Yeah. So I'm waiting tables. I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm also teaching myself how to code, because it's the year 2000, Y2K, all that crazy stuff, and I like programmed when I was a kid. My uncle worked for IBM, so I had access to like a computer back in the day, so I knew enough about the fundamentals of programming, and I have like I just believe I can learn things
Yeah.
if I teach myself. So I was teaching myself how to code, and I met the first family because I was waiting on them. And they were like, Marcus, what are you doing here? And I was like, well, I'm waiting tables while I'm teaching myself how to code. And they were like, you should go down to Cummins Station. Someone in our family runs a company down there called HealthStream. Turned out to be Bobby Frist. I went down there, started going to the user group meetings, and applied and got a job at HealthStream. So my first job was April 2001, and that was like a big socioeconomic like change from like waiting tables. Like, if anyone's waiting tables, you know what I'm saying, try to take care of a family on waiting tables. Like some weeks are great, and some weeks like literally like nothing, right? You know what I'm saying? It just depends on who's walking through the door. And so it was like that, and to go from that to like $45K a year and benefits and like a parking spot, you know what I'm saying? It was just like, it was just
Game
crazy,
changer.
man. It was a complete game changer for me. You
Okay.
know?
Yeah, so if anybody wants the mix here, it's Meet the Frist family. It's the key. No,
Waiting tables 6.5 days a week.
Exactly. That's sometimes that's how it happens. You get your opportunity in somewhere that you just don't see it coming, right?
Yeah.
And you talked about your ability to code and working on learning to code and being younger and kind of working at it. You talked about your uncle. Was there anybody, your uncle included, or anybody else who was a mentor or something like that really touched you while you were younger?
No. The user groups. I mean, there was no single individual who like poured into me. I sought out the environment where the people were, where I could see what I wanted to be. So Cummins Station at the time was like basically little Silicon Valley in Nashville. All the companies that were doing technology were in that one building. Okay. And so they would have these user group meetings, right, where like, if you were a professional or you were an enthusiast, you could go to these meetings for free. They'd have pizza and beer and soda. And somebody who was working in a company would be teaching the group something cool. So it was part education, part networking, and just being able to be in that environment. So I just sought out. I mean, it's no different than this, right? It's like, if you really want it, there's always environments. People are always trying to create environments for you to go into and learn, and then you got to kind of navigate it yourself. But yeah, I did not have a mentor who, I've never really had that.
Got you. All right, so we'll go to one of the questions from the crowd. We got Dave Martin here. And Dave's question was, when was the moment when you knew that you would step away from working for someone else into investing in yourself as an entrepreneur?
I mean, I don't think it has been a particular moment, Dave. I think it's been a constant cycle of self-awareness and just seeing myself, observing myself in different situations and different scenarios, and like, why am I so uncomfortable? Why am I so unhappy? Why do I want to, slap this person? You know what I'm saying? It's like all of those, all those things, and then it gets to a boiling point, and then I would step out, and then the world would slap me down because I wasn't really ready yet, and then I'd have to go back and do the job thing for a little bit, and then it was just cycles of it was never a moment, right? It was always just a constant dissatisfaction with not having autonomy and control of myself. Really, mostly because I'm a creative. Like, this is something I've like been learning over time, is that I'm a creative entrepreneur. I'm not just an entrepreneur. Like, I like the creation part of it. And so it's just been a constant process. And it took time and lots of failures to get to the point where I had developed enough solid capabilities to be able to do it consistently. But I think I've known this for a long time.
Gotcha. Anybody in the crowd?
So let me follow up on that.
Yeah.
The reason I asked is I've been making an idea since 2003, probably some organization center. And every time I consider stepping out, an opportunity comes about professionally or raising something to the point where now, you make good money and you start thinking about, saying the benefits and challenges about the risks of going into entrepreneurship, even though I do believe in myself, versus the security of taking care of my family and the opportunities that we have. So it's kind of like, was it I know that it's time to invest in myself, or was it I know that the resources that I have right now are not, enough to satisfy my creative entrepreneurship opportunities?
Yeah. So that's very real, And I think it's a different answer for every person, right? You know what I'm saying? Like what the right answer in that situation is different for every person. All I can really do is tell you about me, right? So, and I've only recently gotten comfortable with this, right? A strength of mine, one of the things that enables me to do great work and bring value to the world is I thrive on significance, more than comfort and safety. Okay, so it means a lot to me to be sitting here. A lot, right? And I'll basically do anything to sit here, right? As opposed to sit there. I want to be significant. I want to be meaningful. I want to be impactful on the world. My legacy, like it really, 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 really matters to me, right? And I think in a lot of like, you know, in a lot of conversations that would be seen as mad egotistical, you know, shallow, like vain, a million other things. I don't think so. I think that it's just me understanding what drives me. It's like, it's honest self-awareness about what drives me. And by the way, I think that was like put in me when I was a kid. Like I think my mom really was like, you are going to be somebody really special. And so like, it's just in me now. You know what I'm saying? And I can't do anything but this. And so those decisions just get really easy for me to make. But I don't judge any decision that anybody else would make. You know what I'm saying? Like my man Brandon and I, we were having a conversation recently. Like, dog, so HealthStream was the biggest company I ever worked in. It was 150 people at the time. I lasted a year and I left before they fired me because I was creating too many problems, right? I was providing value, but I couldn't I was creating problems. Truthfully, I was not a great employee, truthfully. You know, I'm leaving here to go see Bobby, the CEO of HealthStream, now to talk about business deal. Much better positioning for me, right? Much better positioning for me. So again, I just think it's self-awareness, right? You know what I'm saying? Even if someone came to me and said, oh, you know, here's this you know, $500,000 a year salary to go do X, Y, Z, and I know the eventual end. I know where it's going to end. Bad. So, yes. Can you stand up and speak up? Thank you so much.
Thank you for the work you've done to have the self-awareness that you do, and for sharing it with us. And could you apply that to what you were speaking about around being a creative entrepreneur? What that sort of means that you love that part of it.
Yeah. So there's two different words there, right? So I'm gonna start with the latter word. So entrepreneur. So everyone has a different definition of entrepreneur. I'll just tell you mine. So everyone knows what business is. Everyone knows that entrepreneurs run businesses. My view of an entrepreneur is that they have to do sort of the 8 core things that every business needs. So they have to do leadership, finance, operations, growth, product, service, sales, and marketing. They have to do all 8 of those things to different degrees because they're going to have different strengths and different weaknesses, but you can't not know any of those 8 things. And you have to then be able to backfill and manage around your weaknesses and lean into your strengths as the organization grows. So that's what being an entrepreneur is, and I love that. That's my sport. That's like, if I'm an athlete, entrepreneurship is my sport. The creative piece is that I don't want to franchise something. I want to bring something new into the world, right? So like, entrepreneurship is my sport, but then like it's also my canvas. I don't want to play where someone else has already played. They've already done that. Again, this gets back to the significance thing. I could make $100 million launching McDonald's. It would not be significant. Like, you wouldn't really care. You see what I'm saying?
Gotcha. I got one from the crowd, and I'll come back out to you, Mark. The question was, and you got to remember, Marcus gives a lot of talks. So I'm assuming in one of these talks, it was imposter syndrome is something you may have talked about?
Yeah, I've written about it. Yeah, I'm sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Can you define it and then tell our entrepreneurs if they do have that, how they might be able to to work themselves out of it?
Yeah, so imposter syndrome is an issue with the mind, right? And the mind controls the brain, which controls everything. And so you have to sort of attack all this stuff at the mind level. And when I say attack is not even the right word. You have to study this from a mind perspective. So misconceptions is what causes imposter syndrome.
Gotcha.
Everybody, can I curse?
Yeah.
Everybody is a fucking imposter, right? Every single thing that we see and we use has been created by somebody that didn't have experience in it previously. Everybody's an imposter. Everybody has done something at some point the very first time ever in their life, right? And so where we screw up is like we look at people and we're not able to this is actually why most people are not good at innovation, because they don't understand all the hard stuff that comes before something pops.
Yeah.
The problem is you look at something and you see it as it is today and you think you're like, oh, I want to do that, but you don't want to do all the things that it took to get there. You know what I'm saying? And so imposter syndrome really is a failure to want to go through all the stuff that every single human being no one gets a pass. I don't care if you're born a trust fund baby. You really don't get a pass, because by the way, like if you're a trust fund kid and you're able to just take money and like do something, guess what? You're not as significant. Yeah. So you still if you want it, you can't get that meaningfulness without going through the same steps that everybody else has to go through. So imposter syndrome is a failure to understand the actual path in the marathon you got to run to do anything of meaningfulness in this world. Anything, right? The minute you get that, then you'll stop calling yourself an imposter and you'll start calling yourself a human like the rest of us, right? Yeah. Does that make sense?
I love it. The hustle's a marathon. R.I.P. Nipsey.
R.I.P. Nipsey.
So the next piece here, let's kind of move forward. Let's go to growth. And you've been open about some of the challenges you had.
Because I'm a human.
He's a human. What was the experience like going from waiting tables to engineer, self-taught engineer, to somewhere in a management role, then finally into entrepreneur and then executive? What are some of the challenges you've seen since then, doing that path?
I mean, you know, well, I'm just going to circle back to growth, right? Yeah. I mean, it's those are just stages of growth, and growing is it's got pain because it's new and it's uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. I think the thing that happens over time is you build you build capacity to. You build a love for the discomfort, right? Like when I look back on it, I really loved the whole process. And like there were some really, really dreadful moments, you know what I'm saying, through that process. And I don't think they're like the dreadful moments that everyone would think of. Like I've had companies that failed and that was like super painful. But actually like one of the most painful things that ever happened to me, especially in my technology career, was really when Emma was super successful. So Emma, email marketing company, now part of Campaign Monitor, started in 2002. I joined in 2003. I was the 5th employee. I was just a programmer who had good timing at a good company, got to build out a platform, then got to build out a team, then got equity, then got to become a partner and all this other kind of stuff. And I did all that for the very first time ever, right? Yeah. So there's nobody to be like, hey, and by the way, like in Nashville, there was not a lot of other companies growing at the pace Emma was, in the space Emma was. We were doing open source software. It was like, it was just different what we were doing. And so I didn't know, I didn't have anybody to lean on. So I'm both doing all this leadership learning. I didn't even know it was leadership development, but I'm doing it. And I'm also like still trying to grow the platform, because as it grows, it's getting harder to keep the thing up and running and bug free and all this other kind of stuff. So I was responsible for the billing code. We're making a lot of money now, right? We're going from like burning cash and not knowing if we're gonna be able to make payroll to like making millions of dollars. And one day, like, I don't know what it was, man, Spidey senses just like kicked in and I was like, let me look at this line of code real quick. And I looked at this line of code and man, so here's how you make money in email marketing. You sell packages. You can sell these many outbound messages for this amount, and then you go to the next package and the next package. If you are in a certain package and you send over, you get charged overage charges. My script missed the overage charges.
Oh, wow.
For like it was high six figures, if not seven figures of missed revenue.
Wow.
All on me. 100% my fault.
Yeah.
Right?
How do you do
And then
it?
I had to go tell leadership and then tell the whole team.
Yeah.
People who want raises, people who need things, people, you know what I'm saying?
Miss.
That I did that. So that was like super, super painful, but survived.
Yeah.
And like now it's such an incredible lesson.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I couldn't have read that lesson.
No.
You know what I mean? Like when I just think about the memory, literally like it brings up a feeling.
Yeah, right
It's like
there.
really bad feeling.
Yeah.
And all of those experiences make you who you are.
Yeah.
They make you who you are. They give you the capabilities to do things that other people can't. So all the failures are awesome, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If you're really, really about what this is really about,
Yeah.
you gotta love the failures because no one gets there without them. No one.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as being undefeated in the sport.
Exactly.
No such thing.
Yeah. And so let's kick some of these out. What was there a catalyst event that you look at that was the start of your success? And then to tag one onto it, are there any books that you're reading that you'd recommend that kind of talk around the success, becoming a successful entrepreneur?
I mean, the catalyst event for me being successful is, lucking out on who my parents are. That's it's a cheap answer,
Yeah.
but, look, I see the impact that parenting has on people. I'm a parent now, and, there's a bunch of stuff I don't really get to take credit for, right? I mean, I worked hard, I went through the things, but that's not a moment, right? That's not a catalyst. The real catalyst is my parents and how they raised me. So that's that. What was the second question?
Books and anything that you
Yeah. So I'm reading
read.
some interesting books right now. I'm reading a book called Mind Hacking Happiness. It's a really good book.
Somebody write that down.
I went through it really quickly. It was actually recommended to me by someone who's a subscriber to my email list, which is great. Like I've got this email I send out every Monday. You can just subscribe at my website, marcuswhitney.com.
Gotcha.
But it's like a nice little community. I get really personal, then people send me back emails that are super personal, and it's great. But one of the members of the list sent me the book, and he was like, "Read this and have your mind get blown." And it has. It's been kind of mind blowing. It's been a lot of stuff that I already knew. Yeah. But just to have it framed that way, the mind and mindfulness, so it's like half the deal.
Yeah.
It's half the deal, y'all. You know what I mean? Like your mindset, if you think it's crazy out here, it's crazy out here. If you think other people are holding you down, they're holding you down. And oh, by the way, I'm not saying that if you are anything other than a white male, you don't have more difficulties. I'm not saying that. I am saying what you focus on has power. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm saying. What you focus on has power, right? It's just the way the mind works. So, work on your mind.
Yeah. And so that brings me to one of the questions I had earlier. Is you talked about some of the opportunities you had through therapy, and you've talked openly about therapy and things of that nature. Was there a point where you knew there was time to go talk to somebody? Because we're in the South. Sometimes it's, I talk to somebody from California, like they go about traffic.
Yeah.
But here in South, it's a little deeper.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's super unfortunate that there's weird stigmas around therapy. I don't understand it. That's why I talk about it so much, because I'm just like, who the hell doesn't need somebody to talk to in this world? I mean, the world's crazy, right? So you have to, look, it doesn't have to be a therapist, but the idea that you don't talk to anybody about stuff and you can't actually be vulnerable around anybody about stuff is just not
healthy.
It's just not, it's not that productive. Because you need to be able to process things at an emotional level, right? Like you're not going to be able to restrict or constrict emotions. You're going to have emotions. you know, one of the most important things that you will need to develop, because entrepreneurship is so difficult, is the ability to process emotions, right? How can you process emotions in a healthy way and maintain as even a level of energy as possible? Because there's so much responsibility, there's so much stress, there's so much pressure, there's so much self-doubt, there's so many of these things that, like, it's inevitable. You're going to get emotional about these things. Competition, failed deals, a bad hire, you failing the company, a partner letting you down, you letting the company down. Like these are all real things, right? And so you got to do as many things as you can to keep yourself healthy, to keep the energy level, because you have to find that consistent place to where these things kind of don't impact you so significantly. You know what I mean? And that just takes time and growth and development. But yes, I go to therapy. I like it. You know, I work out. I try to eat pretty good. I fast. You know, I'm not drinking right now. But please enjoy the guidance. My man Jason and Ben are crushing it. Yes, my peoples, please enjoy the guidance. It's my choice. I'm not doing that because I just want to be in a certain place. It's just about me. You know, I just think, look, if you don't have your health, you can't play. You can't play the game. You know what I'm saying? So, like, you know, and no one's going to take care of you but you. Just know that, right? It's no one else's responsibility to take care of you but you. So you got to prioritize it.
That's good. Prioritize leads to the time piece. I've heard you personally talk about the way you manage time. I've been on the receiving end of how you manage time. Can you talk a little bit about how you focus and organize your day, your time, and what maybe some of these folks can take away from it?
We're all going to die. We don't know when. You can never get time back.
There you go.
Stop giving a fuck what anyone else thinks about it. It's not their time. It's your time. Say no more often. Get used to saying no a lot. You're not going to accomplish anything meaningful if you don't say no. Like, forget about it. And like, this is especially true as you start to network more and become more significant. People, for good reason, right? For good reason. People should want, you know what I'm saying? And that's why I do stuff like this. But, you know, I have Des back there shooting it because I don't just want this to have benefit for the people in this room. Man, anybody, you know what I'm saying? Like this is a moment in time. Let's make the most value of this moment in time as we can, right? So let's capture it. And then if someone emails me and they say, hey, I'm thinking about this. Can you give me some advice? Check this video out. You know what I'm saying? And I'm still helping, right? I'm still helping, but I'm just maximizing my time because I don't have that much of it, right?
Colin, does that help? Good. When you're growing a business yourself, what cues do you look for to know it's time to let go of doing everything yourself and hiring others to help and grow?
It's always a big struggle, you know what I mean? And I think it's different for everybody. You have to know what you want. What is it that you want? The idea that you're going to be able to do everything yourself is probably not real. So you're at least going to have to hire some or partner with some small group of vendors, partners, etc. Like, for example, you know, you're going to need legal help. You're going to need accounting help. Like these are things you're just going to need, right? You know what I'm saying? Because you got to grow the business and you can't, it's just too difficult. So I think self-awareness is super important. I like to get a little bit tactical about this stuff, practical and tactical, because like I could say, get self-aware and you could be like, what the hell does that even mean, Marcus, right? So like, real talk, I'm not saying that they're perfect, but there are sciences out there that like you can take these tests and they will give you insight. There's DISC assessments, there's strength finders, there's Myers-Briggs. I'm not saying they're perfect, but yo, you will be surprised like what they will tell you about you and like maybe just help clarify some things about where you're strong and where you're not as strong and things you need to lean into and things you need to hire around because they're not your strengths and you're probably never going to be strong at them. So, and these things are all like sub $100. You know what I'm saying? For like the upside of them is ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? So those are just like basic things that I can recommend, you know, and look, like I said, I'm not endorsing, I'm not getting paid by anybody to do that stuff, but they're tools I use, right, to like really, and I go back to them because I forget. I pull it back out. Oh shit, yeah, Mark, it's like, this is who you are. Stop trying to do this thing over here because you somehow are, you know, and then it also like gets to like, what's the underlying motivation for wanting to do something you're not strong in? Yeah. It's usually bad, like that's usually, like, cause you gotta seek out those little like those weird things. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like what's the little weird, non-productive, self-sabotaging conversation in your head? Yep. What action that would take you to greatness are you avoiding? Yep. What fear? What, you know what I'm saying? Like what's really there that has you doing busy shit that's not moving the needle for you when you know this is what you really need to do? You know what I'm saying? What is that thing? So I like to always be like seeking out I don't care about the surface thing. Like what's really driving that bad behavior? You know what I'm saying? And get to the heart of that. Because you get to the heart of that, then you grow.
I needed a drink after that one. That was one of them deep ones. Oh, that was good. Sister right here had a question. Say your name and question.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. So for entrepreneurs who are building tech platforms, we typically focus on being a disruptor to an industry. And recently I've started reading 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel.
Yeah.
So you mentioned in the beginning of the book that we shouldn't focus on being disruptors, that we should avoid competition as much as possible. What are your thoughts on that? Because I know most of the time investors want to know, are you disrupting an industry? So like, what are your thoughts on, should we focus on building products that disrupt industries, or should we focus on building something from 0 to 1?
Yeah, so Erica, I think one of the things that's like super interesting about your question is the amount of coded speak that's in there. This has always been something, like I've spent time in Silicon Valley, I've spent time in Boston, I grew up in New York, and I've had a venture-backed company, I'm an owner in a venture fund, and I ran an accelerator, I helped get the Entrepreneur Center started, and one of the things that I've really grown to absolutely hate is all the coded speak. So disrupt an industry, like what the fuck does that even? You know what I'm saying? Like here's what and I'm not coming at you. I'm coming at that whole coded speak thing. So here's what's real. You have limited time. You have to focus your time on things that are going to make your business successful. Here's what's going to make your business successful: focusing on providing value for your customer. When investors say, "Are you disrupting a market?" what they're really looking for is proof that a market exists. That's what they're looking for, and so they're checking on timing. And then they're saying, "Okay, if you are disrupting a market, are you strong enough to actually disrupt it? And if you're not disrupting a market, is that market going to actually come about in the time necessary for you to be successful?" That's what that conversation is actually about. Peter Thiel is right insofar as you have limited time. You should be 100% focused on what provides value to your customer. End of story. Focusing on competition is helpful if it helps to indicate where your customer is finding value, but with a customer-focused lens, not with a competition-focused lens. Does that make sense? Because the competition thing is like, it's just not that helpful. Hi.
So, in what you're speaking to, I just wanted to know, what is your thought process behind finding a community that understands your language and your niche, or finding your community that you can help and assist? Because the whole point is to serve. So, in serving your clients or whoever that is, sometimes it is difficult to find the individuals or them to find you. Can you speak to how?
If it's difficult for you to, and I'm not trying to be funny, if it's difficult for you to find them, how do you know they have a real problem?
Well, if you know there's a problem, people keep saying there is a problem.
Hold on, but then are those people the people, or are those people pontificating about something they don't know anything about?
Well, that's the problem. I think trying to learn the language of how to speak to what you're trying to improve or help.
Any friction between you and the customer is bad.
I guess I'm saying this wrong. Basically, I'm speaking to the fact that there's a lot of influencers out here. There's a lot of people who influence people to do etc. But if you know that people actually need what you have, but you're having a difficult time reaching that audience, what do you?
You're losing me when you say you know that people need what you have, but you're having difficulty reaching the people who need what you have. Do you understand why I'm getting caught up on that? Because it doesn't make a lot of sense, and I'm not trying to be mean. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, you only know if people need it if you're hearing that directly from the people. You have to have access to the people. That's why I say any friction between you and the customer is bad. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. I literally don't care what anyone else says about me. Like, I don't give a shit. People talk about me a lot. I don't care. Like, all I care about is the people I'm providing value to in my family and my very, very best friends in the whole world. I don't care. So I'm not going to be here that long. You know what I'm saying? And guess what? They don't care about me either. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not worried about them. Don't worry about influencers. Doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Whenever I have a conversation like this, like I can't stop. Like, Jay-Z is just in my head. What you eat don't make me shit. Where's the love? Like, it's just right here. Like, boom. You know what I'm saying? Because it's true. Because it's true. You know what I'm saying? Cut all the, like, just cuts. Y'all, cut the stuff that does not matter out of your life. Cut it out. Seriously, like it takes a lot of different forms. It takes a lot of different forms. It's very tricky, but it's all the same thing. It's distractions. It's meaningless stuff. It's all the same thing. Remove it. Remove it.
Okay.
Marquis Brady. So can you give us your philosophy, because we've heard many questions on Peter Thiel, everybody's talked about, people who they've learned from. What's your philosophy on how do you align with the individuals who meet your value to learn from? Because everybody has a different philosophy. You were talking about competition, and I was listening to 10X Rule this morning.
Yeah.
And Grant Cardone says you don't focus on competition because there is none. And then being in the personal branding field, Chris Ducker says, well, there is no competition because your personal brand is your personal brand and nobody can be like you. So what's your philosophy on how do you determine who you need to listen to based on where you're trying to take your business?
It's literally the same answer. It's literally the same answer. It's like, I just need to know myself, and then I just need to do what I need to do. And it's the same thing for you, right? Like, I'm just up here sharing my truth with you. I'm not trying to be your guru. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I will say, if you want to find other people who resonate with you, putting out content in the world is a way to do that. It is very hard if you're locked up in your room and you never actually put anything out for people to find you and then connect with you, right? And engage with you. So you have to, like, speak who you are in order for people to say, oh, me too. That's sort of table stakes. But outside of that very basic thing, which, oh, by the way, has been true since the dawn of time, that is not Grant Cardone's wisdom, right? That is like smoke signals and writing on caves and, you know what I'm saying, and hieroglyphics. This shit's been going on forever. You gotta communicate.
So would you say, this is the second part of the question, so would you say that the problem that many people have, especially in entrepreneurship, is really self-awareness? The more I
Massive issue. Massive issue. People are living outside of their body. Massive issue. People are living outside of their body. But it's not even an entrepreneurship issue. That's a life issue. That's why people are codependent, self-medicating, depressed, sad, don't have purpose. Like entrepreneurship brings it to the surface because there's no one to blame anything on, right? So entrepreneurship, you have to face it more, or we have more conversations about it, maybe. But like, it's the same everywhere. People are living outside their body. They're not in their body. They're not living with themselves. They're not having real conversations with themselves. You know what I'm saying?
That's another sip. Can you do 10?
Yes, the start of this.
Can you do 10 more?
Mentioned something about
Can you do 10 more minutes? Bill Frisk
Yeah.
can be met.
Bobby, yeah.
I'd actually be
5
interested in hearing about some of the failures and what you ran into that caused the failure, because those are the big places you learn.
Yeah.
That's a good question. The moon toast.
Yeah. So massive failure, but like I think it's super important, right? Like, and I'm not trying to spin anything here. I'm really not trying to spin anything here. Because it is a marathon, right? So I don't want to say two different things. Because it's a marathon and not a sprint, it really wasn't a failure, okay? It really wasn't a failure. It was just a difficult mile, and I learned a load from that mile. Now, having said that, I just think it's important to frame that up, because so much of what I learned in this thing I'm about to tell you is exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing right now, right? So Moon Toast, I started a company in 2009. Let me just finish. I started a company in 2009 with two other gentlemen. I owned 10%, they owned 90%. We raised a bunch of money. I got whittled down to 5%. I got over leveraged. I got sucked into the company as the CTO. I was not on the board of the company. I was never the CEO of the company, but I was the face of the company, and I was the brains behind the company. And so there was a ton of money injected in, which made me one of my strengths from Strength Finders is responsibility. So I felt super responsible because there was so much money being pumped into this company, even though it was a train wreck from the fundamental design of it was a fucking train wreck. But I felt so responsible because of all the money that was pumped in that I've literally traded my entire life for this company. I was on the road more than half the time, living in an apartment up in Boston, sort of by myself. I didn't really know anybody, just up there like helping to build a team there and trying to keep two different teams, a team down here in Nashville and a team up in Boston together. We were in a space that was overly flooded with venture capital money called the social media marketing technology space. About 1% of the total venture-backed companies won. The other 99% lost, and flamed out bad. So I was part of the 99% in that flame out. But I went to Facebook a bunch. I learned so much. It was the transition. It was the years when desktop flipped to mobile, when we went from desktop being the majority of what we did to mobile being the majority of what we did. It was the era when Steve Jobs killed Flash. In that moment, our technology was desktop and Flash dependent. That was bad. It was the era where Facebook turned on ads. Prior to that, they were running one business model that nobody understood. Then they turned on ads and they killed everybody on their terms of service who was their partner on the platform. We got killed by that. And then we just had cultural issues internally. We have massive cultural issues, some of which I will absolutely take responsibility for. So there was all these sort of lessons, right, through that process, and the company didn't do well. You know what I mean? But guess what? Everybody survived, to include the people who had all the money. They still got a ton of money. They're fine. Everything's fine, right? I learned a ton about that. Don't build on somebody else's platform. The lessons I have from that, be on the other side of the table. Never go do something crazy like that for 4 years with less than 5% equity in the company. You crazy, Marcus? What are you doing? You know what I'm saying? There's a million things I learned from that. You know what I'm saying? But it only took 4 years. You know what I'm saying? It only took 4 years for me to learn massive, massive lessons. I'm only 43. I literally feel like I'm getting started right now. Just so we're clear, I feel like I'm getting started right now. Right now. Right now.
That's great.
I'm just getting started.
So that's a good point. There are some folks in here who can't fail because they can't get started. They kind of touched on it a little bit, but those who can't find funding for their idea aren't seeing the right amount of
Why are you doing
base.
something that needs funding? Stop that.
Mm-hmm. What's important there?
You're losing all your leverage. It's stupid. You're wasting time and energy. Do something that doesn't need funding. Go build a business. Stop doing that. Go consult. Go sell lollipops. I don't give a shit. Stop doing the funding thing. Stop talking about the funding thing. I run a venture fund. Stop talking about the funding thing. You know, just stop. Just stop. And oh, by the way, like, it's a bubble.
Yeah.
It's a bubble. It's going to be bad.
Money goes away.
It's going to be bad. It's going to be real bad because that era, like, so here's the deal. That era of building those kind of technology companies is over.
Yeah.
It's over. It's over. Like, I would not build a SaaS business right now for anything.
Yeah.
It's now another layer that's being built, right, of businesses. It's a whole nother layer. You got to pay attention, man.
Yeah.
You got to pay attention. You know what I'm saying? What were the big announcements this year? The big announcements? Apple's opening a studio. Amazon won a Oscar.
Yeah.
Right? Content.
Content.
That's the game today.
Yeah. Putting it in the universe. Okay. So now you got it. I got one last question, and Bill Friss is gonna get Marcus.
It's not Bill, it's Bobby.
Bobby, sorry. Last question is, let's give it to her.
To having a product versus having a service that you provide consulting. I can tell people how to cook their food all day long, but when it comes to creating content for someone like me who is openly like, hi, I don't know what I'm doing, how do I justify giving someone this content to consume and say this can also help you? Is that playing into imposter syndrome? Am I just kind of like, how you doing?
Well, let me just answer a question with a question. How do you think you're going to win?
I think people are going to be hungry.
For?
Food.
Is that your product?
Yeah, food seasoning.
A food seasoning?
Yeah.
Okay. How are people going to know about it? Because people could be hungry. There's a million people trying to feed people. So how are you going to get people to know about you?
So for me, it's difficult because people don't trust me. I wasn't the face of the company for the last 10 years.
Hold on. What customer knows that? I didn't know that until you just told me. Nobody knows that. Don't ever say that again. Nobody knows that. So now, that's not true. What's true?
I exist. The product exists.
Great. What is the product?
It's
Let's practice.
Walmart signature seasonings. And I started my
Like the restaurant?
No, not Lowry's, not Longhorns. Lawhorn.
Lawhorn. Sorry. Okay.
Sorry,
Okay. All good. All good. So you got something that sounds like another food brand, but is not that brand.
Right.
Okay. So you're really going to have to focus on communication, right?
Right.
Okay.
And another thing too is the distribution for that baby set company. Like we're in 1,300 Krogers right now, but it's one of those. There's nothing in between, so I created my own distribution company to kind of fulfill my own POs. So do I need to create? I guess involving my question: do I create the content as my product, or do I create the content?
Do you have a cookbook on 100 different recipes you can make with the seasoning? You have to provide value, right? It's too much friction. You have to provide value. So if I were you, I would create a cooking show. And I would make a new recipe with you as the face of it, and I'd make a new recipe. Like, I mean, how often do you cook? Do you cook every night?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd record two nights a week, a new recipe that you're doing with it and put it out there. You know what I'm saying? Because here's the thing. For a long time, you just have to like make content and no one's gonna know anything about it, and it's gonna suck, and you're gonna have 5 views and 10 views, and that's just what it's gonna be until you have 50, and then you have enough that you can be like, oh, I can like put 50 things on a website, and that's like a lot. And then I can run ads and drive traffic to a website, and people can get lost in my website for a while because there's 50 recipes there. And then I can start getting on different podcasts or other people's cooking shows and bringing my thing because I got 50 things, right? So let's just, you got
So
it.
creating the content as the product.
It is the product.
It is the product.
It is the product.
It's the value.
The content is the product.
It's
If
beautiful.
you don't do that, no one's going to know about it.
That's a good one.
All right, I got to go.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.